Well, best of luck. Congrats on the success of the company, and don't rub the success of the Celtics and Bruins too much in other people's faces because, man, they
Can't
look
help
good.
it. Can't help it. I appreciate that.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to this Dale's Report Cannabis Exclusive. Great to have you, and thanks for checking in. We're talking cannabis today, and we want to talk about how this industry is going to unfold this year. A lot of questions that we're receiving, and no better person to bring in. He's a familiar face. This company has been following for quite a few months now. He's the Chief Operating Officer of MariMed. Timothy Shaw joins us. Timothy, great to have you on. How are things?
Things are going great. Things are going real good. MariMed's crushing it, growing at a epic pace, and the Bruins are winning, and so are the Celtics. So I'm happy.
Bruins and Celtics look impressive in Boston, but I'm glad that you brought up about how you guys are killing it and knocking it out of the park. This is a really good story because, as we've said before in the past, number of years where a lot of the tension was the big MSOs, but now we're really starting to see, especially in the few announcements that have already taken place here in 2023, about market share. Companies are pivoting it away. Now got to focus on profitability. And as you start to do that, you start to question, okay, who am I invested in and why, and how does this make sense? And I think at the forefront that many investors are starting to see is the quality of product and branding, which you guys are achieving. So how does the overall office and company morale feel going into 2023?
Just ambitious, super positive,
Yeah,
and ready to crush this year, right?
it's amazing.
We've our proven growth strategy. Our growth strategy is proven, right? And we're just going to continue to build on it, and that comes with quality and building brands. Like my late CEO has always preached, it's all about the brands and high quality, and it's coming to fruition, and we're going to keep driving that home.
That's great. Maybe share with us on what you're planning on growth-wise with respect to here in 2023.
Sure. A lot of the things that happened in 2022 came to fruition right at the end of 22. So those are going to have the full impact through 2023. So that alone is going to show growth, right? But on top of that, we're going to be expanding, like we've been saying for quite some time, in the states we're already operating in. We're going to bring them to full capacity of what's allowed in those states. You might have just seen the announcement, the acquisition of the Quincy dispensary. We have a Beverly dispensary in Massachusetts also coming online. It's only been regulatory hurdles waiting for the state to make the approval. It's waiting to open. So literally, we may have 2 dispensaries coming online in the next 2 months, which we're really excited about. And with that expansion into the Quincy dispensary, it's a much larger building than just the dispensary.
Yeah.
It was a full vertical for the last company. However, we don't plan on expanding growth production in there. We're going to be able to take some of the things that take up space, R&D, along with our pheno hunting for our great strains, over to that facility and really separate some of the R&D out of production, which is everyone's dream.
That's great. Well, when we talk about your recent announcement, so it's set to acquire the operating assets of Ermont Incorporated, which, as you said, is a medical licensed vertical cannabis operator in the state of Massachusetts, which is currently in receivership proceedings. So if successful, this marks the 3rd dispensary owned in the state. So explain to our viewers the acquisition and what it potentially will overall do for you, because this looks like a pretty good acquisition if everything comes to fruition.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So the Beverly facility that's about to open is adult use only.
Yeah.
This one is medical only today.
Okay.
We've got all our ducks in a row to apply and make the change, so it will be co-located like our current dispensary. Massachusetts allows 3 dispensaries,
Yep.
Both adult use and medical. It makes all the sense in the world to co-locate as you're not replicating costs. So the ultimate plan is to have all 3 be co-located, and then we'd be maxed out with our footprint here in Massachusetts, covering a great section of Massachusetts, southern Mass, right outside of Boston and on the North Shore. So I think we have a great spread for our brand to really give the best service to the people of Massachusetts.
That's good. That's good. Well, you talked earlier about, basically maximizing capacity in all the states that you're in. I wanted to touch, base with you, uh, based on the announcement that took place last month, including a debt deal for $35 million. And at some point, I should say, the lowest interest rates that we've seen in the industry, which, as many know, despite a rising interest rate environment. So let's learn on the background of this deal and why you decided to take debt on now. And like you said, how it basically complements your overall growth strategy with this debt deal going into 2023.
Right. So, I mean, as we've reported, we do have a great cash flow history,
Yeah.
and we can continue to grow organically with cash flow. But with the current climate and operators starting to raise the white flag and might be interesting times to sell, we want to be ready to move swiftly and pick up some of those assets that would be, incremental to our growth plan. So it's really being ready to move swiftly as we think 2023 is going to shake up a bit.
Great story. Loving the positive vibe. Is this kind of like the attitude amongst everybody? Because it's such a great story, as I said before, seeing that, you're starting to understand how the industry is evolving and changing. And a lot of the companies that have been doing this, such as yourself, for a long period of time, are now getting the rightful attention, don't you think?
I do. And really, it's about being agile and really keeping a pulse on what's going on in each market that you're in.
Yeah.
We've had to make some major adjustments in some of the focus on what brands and how to approach brands as the economy has, gone down the tubes a
Yep.
little bit. We've tried to stay on the sidelines and watch the top brands race to the bottom. I don't want to be a part of that
Yep.
race.
Yep.
So we were agile enough to create some brands that were lower in tier, high quality, but lower in tier, and approach the value consumer, and really keep us elevated as the markets are going down. We've bucked that trend, and as you'll see, and you have seen, our numbers continue to go up.
Yeah, you have bucked that trend. And I want to focus on Maryland. They went adult use at the midterm elections. So the BDSA data that Nature's Heritage, which is your premium branded flower, commanded the #1 market share in the highly competitive Massachusetts market. Important to outline, considering all the giant MSOs have a much more presence than what you have. So 2 questions. First one, you have this little sleepy MSO that no one seemingly ever heard of. It came in to dominate the flower market in one of the largest markets in the world. So how are you doing it? Because like I said, it's a great story.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I mean, it's just all goes back to quality, right? It's no frills. It's all about the highest quality product. The first sale is easy. The second sale, third sale is really the proving point that you've got the right stuff. And I
Yeah.
can't thank and be proud enough for my team here in Massachusetts and in Maryland and all locations for what they're doing for creating such a high quality product. We pay attention from planting the seed all the way to hand trimming and out the door in a beautiful glass jar to preserve the freshness. So we're excited, and market share is one thing that we love to tout, but it's not something I pay too close attention to. Look at Pepsi and Coke, who's first, who's second. It
Yeah.
changes on a whim.
Yeah.
So we want to be in the top tier and be looked at from the consumers as the best and the top flower in any market we're in.
Consistency is always a top of mind question brought up in this industry, where people have lofty goals as far as companies, but the product doesn't stay consistent. So
Right.
if you're doing the same thing you've done in Massachusetts, you obviously plan to do that in Maryland. So can you achieve, meaning growing the same high quality flower across multiple states?
We can. And when we launched in Maryland way back in 2018,
Yeah.
we were touted in the top realm, top 3 flower brands in the state. We went through those hiccups that we don't have to go down that rabbit hole with lawsuits, and are finally back in the driver's seat with that facility. And we're clawing our way back to the top. We didn't have as much control for a few years there. Strains got stagnant. Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
The the Farm Bill and the DEA's letter that says seeds and genetic material that has less than 0.3% THC can move across state lines,
Yep.
has really opened up the door to allow us to bring some of our winning best strains to all locations that we're growing at. So now we have consistency amongst our strains, not just a brand name with trust. Now there's consistency with strains, which also leads to efficiencies and scalability with marketing and everything like that. So we're really excited about what's to come in the future.
What do you think are the biggest trends that we'll see in the industry here in 2023? And where do you stem to benefit from that? Have you thought about that?
That's all I think about, right? I think, the economy's really weighing heavy on trends today on just how much money someone has to spend on the plant.
Yep.
So, ready to drinks have been a big push. I think we've seen some decline through the winter months, at least in the Northeast. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a consistent. But new innovative products and high quality products that work and do what
Yep.
they say they're going to do is always going to win, and that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah. If you're then able to, I guess, achieve the same premium product in both Massachusetts and Maryland and apply it to, say, for example, the cultivation facility you're building in Illinois and the one you're managing in Delaware, one should be able to buy the same strain of Nature's Heritage flower in all those states and hopefully not be able to tell the difference. So is this what, I guess, the ultimate primary goal would be?
Absolutely. Of course, being a hodgepodge industry, every state has some slight differences in what you're allowed to. But with cultivation, it's pretty simple across all states. I don't know of too many things. We don't use pesticides, so it doesn't matter in that respect. And that's one of the biggest regulatory hurdles going from state to state. So we don't worry about that. So yeah, our SOPs are buttoned up tight, and as long as we build a strong team like we have everywhere else, we should be able to knock it out of the park.
What's the, I guess, strategy been? There's been a lot of talk about how these West Coast brands will make their way into the Midwest. What do you make of that?
I still think there's no Coca-Cola brand. California is the biggest country in the U.S., right?
Yep.
So there's a large volume of that brand being sold, but I don't know that other than cookies and the money that they spend on marketing, when it comes down to it, it's going to be the high quality product that's in the bag or jar that's going to win. So I'm not too nervous. I don't lose sleep at night for California brands or West Coast brands coming east. I welcome it. Let's go.
Yeah. I love the attitude. That's for sure. Betty's Eddie's making its way back into Illinois. That's going to be something that's been highly anticipated for a lot of people from that state. And I've had a few conversations with Ryan and Susan and a few others about, just the momentum that's building. But can you provide an update as to how that's progressing and some of the feedback that you're receiving?
Absolutely. I think there is a ton of pent up demand. We still get emails and social media comments when you're coming back to Illinois. So if that resonates amongst the whole state, I think it's going to be an amazing ride as soon as we hit the ground running. The construction is well underway, right? We should be operational this summer. I pause when I say that because there's things that are out of our control with the regulatory system and waiting for permitting. But if everything goes as planned, we'll be rocking and rolling this year with Betty's Eddies in that state. And it was the number one edible way back when she was running around that state.
Yeah. Well, I always have great conversations with Howard, who basically handles you a lot of your branding. And creative mind, he was the one that, and I've said this on previous podcasts before, to get the 850-pound brownie all the way into Jimmy Kimmel's show. What have you learned, I guess, from him from a branding perspective? Because we actually, in a previous podcast that we have with a few other people last week, we're talking about how the MSOs clearly are missing the ball when it comes to branding. We're seeing even a couple of players down in Florida that are already starting to build a brand within the first couple of months, because it's not just the product, it's the lifestyle. Yeah. And when I see that stuff, it's like I've never seen any concept or content created around the MSOs related to that. But what would you say are three or four or even one or two important initiatives or objectives when it comes to branding in this space?
Understanding your audience, right? Understanding who you're targeting with each product and making sure that the brand speaks to that audience is, I think, number one. You could have the same product in three different brands
Yeah.
that have a totally different look, feel, and lifestyle behind it, and have three great companies with that. So I think that's been a big piece that we've all learned, that not all brands are going to speak to everybody. So trying to encompass the large mass of folks that will have this brand speak to them is really the biggest piece that will bring success.
What product, or like you say, every brand's not going to hit every single person, but what are you finding as being the biggest growth so far for you guys this year?
Bubby's.
Bubbies?
Bubby's Baked has really taken off in our Maryland market. It's done really well in Massachusetts, but it was surprising at how quickly it was accepted and looked for. We've had to double production in Maryland to try to keep up with the demand. So Bubby's is another fun-loving, good-feeling type of brand, and I think Betty's has that same feel. So if that's consistent, I think people, when they think of cannabis, just want to have fun and
Yeah.
relax and not be too serious. So that's been a winning antidote for us.
Well, it's understanding the industry and understanding the end consumer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think you're going to start to see what you have to see for the overall growth of the industry, but you guys are ahead of the ball, which is important. Last thing I want to ask, and I asked this to John Levine, he was on last month, but Bob Fireman, obviously the legacy that he leaves behind and what he meant to you, what would you say?
He meant to me a lot on so many levels. I mean, I met Bob when I was, what's that, 12 years ago, 33 years old, 45 now.
Wow.
The things I've learned from his guidance and mentorship is just unbelievable. And I miss him dearly,
Yeah, I
and
bet.
I hope we can continue to make him proud. And he's looking down on John and I and the rest of the company, and cheering for us like you would for any one of these Boston teams that are winning today.
Yeah, well said. If you had to have this same conversation with me in say 24 months from now about the state of the business on
Yeah.
where you would be, what would it be?
The state of our business in 24 months, my goal is to be looked at as a top tier in that in 24 months, right? I think some of the incremental growth and some of the things that are going to shake out are going to change the landscape of
Yeah,
who's first and who's worst, right?
yeah,
And we've always, and Bob used to always say that the laws of economics are going to matter someday in cannabis, and I think it's starting to
100%.
matter, right? So we've always paid attention to cash flow. We always want to be cash flow positive. We don't want to make bad deals, and if we continue on that path, we're well on our way. So that's what I think we'll be talking about.
Without getting into like detail on like other specific states that you're looking to expand in right now.
Yes, I mean, limited license, right?
Yep,
Wholesale markets
yep,
where we can really get the brand into the most people's hands is really what we're looking for. So whether it's entering into a state as just a producer with a
yep.
kitchen and a lab that has a wholesale capability, that's probably the best case scenario, where it costs the least amount to get in there and can have a huge impact for our brands and our top line.
Hmm. Appreciate the update. This has been informative, but you guys are off to a great start. More announcements that are coming, but yeah, some viable acquisitions that are taking place. A debt deal that was announced last month for, like I said, growth opportunities here in 2023. But besides all that, which is the number one thing we need to focus on this industry, is the quality of product is aligning with what consumers want, which is number one reason that we should have been here from day one, right?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. That'll win the game every time.
Yeah. Well, best of luck. Congrats on the success of the company. And don't rub the success of the Celtics and Bruins too much in other people's faces because, man, they
Can't
look
help
good.
it. Can't help it. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Timothy. Appreciate your time.
Talk soon.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.